2018 was another incredible year for the gaming industry. I mean, practically nothing bad happened this year at all. Well, except for this. And this. This really sucked. And of course all these other things. But in regards to quality interactive experiences, 2018 had plenty to choose from, and I'm once again here to give you my own personal favorites. Just like last time, the ground rules are as follows. Number 1, to be considered, the game had to fully release this year, so any unfinished episodic games don't count, and neither does anything still in an early access state. Number 2, of course, I have to have played the game myself, and as one guy, it's impossible for me to play everything, so if a title you loved isn't on here, there's a decent chance I simply didn't get to play it. And number 3, most importantly, all of this is my opinion based on my personal taste. You're bound to disagree and have a different list all your own, but hey, that's what comment sections are for. And now, without further delay, here are my top 10 favorite games of 2018.
Whoa.
I knew I wanted to include one of the nostalgia string-tugging 90s throwback shooters I played this year on my list, but I wasn't sure whether I preferred Project Warlock or Dusk. They each do a fantastic job of emulating classics of the era and delivering satisfying run-and-gun action with gleeful displays of over-the-top violence. Now some of you are probably thinking,
¿Por qué no los dos?
well, I simply had 9 other games I wanted to include on this list, so unfortunately I can only choose one. After some internal debate and playing both back-to-back, I've settled on Dusk for my number 10 spot, in large part due to Project Warlock being way too dark for its own good to the point where it can be hard to see. So, about Dusk. A clear love letter to titans of the FPS genre, most notably Quake, Dusk is a glorious cultist-killing experience that unfolds at an at times blistering pace. A solid arsenal of brutal weaponry, from the foe-decimating super shotgun to the rocket launcher-esque riveter, ensure that bad guys blow into meaty chunks on a regular basis, and there are numerous secrets to uncover across each of its 3 episodes. It's a game that'll probably get some visceral reactions out of you from time to time, although it also managed to get a different kind of reaction out of me. While the first episode is a pretty straightforward, fun-as-hell murderfest, its second and third episodes legitimately creeped me out at points. Some of the levels are so thick with atmosphere and, in my opinion, disturbing enemy designs that I felt like I was in the middle of a horror title instead of an action shooter. Having a shotgun at the ready did a good job of quelling my fears, but I'd be lying if I didn't admit to jumping out of my chair on more than one occasion. Don't take this as a negative, it's just something I wasn't expecting, and actually makes my experience with Dusk stick in my head even more. If you love old-school shoot-'em-ups and are looking for one to pass the time with, then Dusk should absolutely be one you check out. Also buy Project Warlock, it's pretty great too.
Whoa.
While always a popular series in other parts of the globe, Monster Hunter was a niche hit in the West. It had its fans, of course, but most players, myself included, saw the games as difficult to get into and doubted they would ever be able to. But all of that changed with Monster Hunter World. The game goes out of its way to show new players the ropes, making it easier than ever to get into the hunt, and it streamlines some of the more obtuse elements the series was known for. The varied weapon types that each have their own unique way of handling ensures that you're bound to find something that fits your playstyle, and have tons of options to switch to if you ever feel like mixing it up. Plus, the game is stuffed with seemingly endless amounts of content that you keep discovering as you play, and plenty of free updates have ensured even more to do on top of that. I had a great time tracking down and slaying all manner of beasts, both big and small, and my only regret is that I didn't get to play more of it because I know for certain there's still tons left for me to discover. And watching synchronized chef cats cook massive banquets is probably the greatest thing ever.
Whoa.
It was only in the last couple years that I finally sat down and played Vampyr: The Masquerade Bloodlines, the beloved 2004 RPG that just about everyone who's played expresses undying, no pun intended, admiration for. And after playing it myself, yeah, I loved it too, and I bring it up now because it was my newfound appreciation for this classic that put Vampyr on my radar. In some ways a spiritual successor to the previously mentioned Bloodlines, Vampyr has you, a recently embraced doctor in post-World War I London, coming to terms with his new cursed existence while attempting to uncover the truth behind a rampant epidemic. Dripping with foreboding gothic atmosphere, helped by an excellent string-heavy soundtrack, the setting is immediately engrossing and remains that way for the entire 20-plus hour duration. And the story is engaging thanks to strong writing and quality voice acting from the entire cast. The blood quality system, which gives every single NPC an XP value, constantly tempting the player to give in to their hunger for a quick power boost, is probably the greatest idea ever conceived for a game like this, and it's impossible not to appreciate even if you're a goody two-shoes like me and choose never to engage with it. Some technical hiccups, a bland, repetitive combat system that lacks bite, pun intended that time, and only allowing one save slot, meaning I can't go back and mop up what I missed having finished the story, makes Vampyr a flawed experience with some rough edges, but one I couldn't put down, and absolutely recommend checking it out yourself.
Whoa.
I think Dead Cells got overshadowed a bit by the unethical behavior of one hack fraud writer, but let's do the adult thing and forget he exists while singing the merits of this excellent roguelite. Dead Cells is this year's just one more run game. Its range of different weapons and abilities, branching paths, and rewards for both speedrunners and more methodical players makes it hard to stop at one run when you inevitably succumb to its tough difficulty. Its silky smooth control makes exploring the levels a delight, and with so many new options to discover, you're bound to stumble upon something cool to play around with even if you think you found your one and only go-to strategy. Undoubtedly one of the finest in its genre, Dead Cells is great fun and a satisfying challenge to overcome.
Whoa.
Let me state for the record that I hate the fact that Hitman 2 is called Hitman 2. There was already a Hitman 2 released in 2002, and it really bugs me that now there's another one because whenever I'm talking about this awesome series and I bring up Hitman 2, I'll have to clarify which one I'm talking about, and it sucks and it's dumb and I hate it. Name drama aside, Hitman 2 is more of what Hitman 2016 offered, and that is in no way a bad thing. Massive levels littered with inventive ways to dispatch your targets makes each one insanely replayable, and ditching the unnecessary episodic format is a big plus for me. Assassinations are always gratifying to pull off, no matter how cleanly or sloppily you approach them, and the number of creative kills the madmen at IO Interactive keep thinking of makes me seriously question their mental state. This follow-up could be criticized for feeling more like a map pack to the last entry than a full new sequel, and that's fair since this was originally meant to be Season 2 to the first game before Square Enix dropped IO, but given that information and the overall quality of the product, it's a criticism I can look past. It's safe to say Agent 47 is in good hands, and I can't wait to see what comes next for the bald, barcode-wearing assassin. And Square Enix can rest easy knowing that they let one of their best franchises go to pursue better things like The Quiet Man.
That was a really good call, Square Enix.
Whoa.
Everyone's favorite web-slinger really knocked it out of the park this year. He played a significant role in Infinity War. Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite movie of 2018 to the point where I've seen it 3 times in theaters. Venom... Okay, Venom sucked, but it doesn't say Spider-Man on it, so it doesn't count. And of course, there was Insomniac's Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 4. Mechanically speaking, this is largely just another video game in the webhead's long line of video games, but without a doubt, it is the most refined. Swinging through the streets of Manhattan feels the best it ever has, and the combat and stealth rewards skillful execution while also being easy to pick up and play. Perhaps the biggest improvement this interactive Spidey adventure has over what came before is the attention to story and characters. Everyone is fleshed out well and easy to like thanks to great performances, and while I didn't think the story had a ton of crazy surprises, I still found the narrative compelling and am interested to see what happens next. It also has the benefit of being easy to get 100% completion in, leading to my first ever Platinum trophy on the system, and that has to count for something. With great power comes a pretty great game. I immediately regret saying that.
Whoa.
I've played some JRPGs in my time, even finished a couple of them, but it's largely a genre that I let pass me by both now and as a kid. So when I tell you I enjoyed pretty much every second of the 55 hours I spent with Octopath Traveler, it should tell you something about how good it is. The retro-style visuals and amazing soundtrack contribute to an immediate charm that never dwindles. The turn-based battle system remains compelling even after numerous hours, requiring you to actually plan out when to spend boost points you've built up and exploit enemy weaknesses instead of just mindlessly mashing the attack command. Its 8 individual stories aren't exactly original, and I wish the game made an effort to tie them all together in a meaningful way, but I still enjoyed each for what they were. This is a game more about the journey than the destination, and my journey across the lands of Ostera was enjoyable throughout. If you're an RPG fan and you have a Switch, I highly recommend it.
Whoa.
It's pretty much a given that any year Rockstar puts out a game, it's going to be included on Game of the Year lists, and Red Dead Redemption 2 is no exception. In many ways, this game is a masterpiece. The sheer amount of content and almost obsessive attention to even small details creates one of the most well-realized and engaging open worlds ever made. Witnessing the slow downfall of the Dutch van der Linde gang is both engrossing and tragic thanks to exceptional writing and performances that exceed the already high bar set by Rockstar themselves. I'd go as far as to say that Arthur Morgan is probably the best protagonist they've ever made. It's an incredibly compelling Wild West adventure that managed to keep me glued to my controller for close to 70 hours. That's not to say the game is perfect, of course, and its flaws do become more apparent the longer you play. The story does drag in the later chapters, the game's overall slow burn nature will undoubtedly turn some people off, the movement and shooting controls can get in the way, especially the inconsistent cover system, and Rockstar's heavily scripted mission design continues to conflict with the freedom its open world allows for. There's an excellent video from Nakey Jakey that you should definitely check out if you want a further breakdown of that last point, but even with those notable flaws, I definitely still suggest playing it, although given the sales numbers, you probably already did. Originally, I had Red Dead a full spot higher on my list, but then Red Dead Online came out, and despite having a beta tag assigned to it in an attempt to curb criticism, it is part of the game, and yeah, it's not very fun at all. There's little of interest to do, the shooting doesn't translate into an enjoyable PvP experience, and its progression is clearly designed to be a huge grind to incentivize overpriced microtransactions, which are already purchasable despite this supposedly being a beta. It drags the package down as a whole, and I doubt I'll ever revisit it in the future. I've been talking about its negatives quite a bit, but let me clarify that I still think Red Dead Redemption 2 is an amazing game. Just be sure to buy it for the single player, and you'll get more than your money's worth out of it.
Whoa.
2018 was full of memorable events for me personally. It was the year this YouTube channel started to gain some traction, it was the year I learned how destructive firefighters can be to personal belongings, and it was the year I finally fell in love with Yakuza. Not only did I play through the fantastic Yakuza 0, I also jumped headfirst into Yakuza Kiwami 2, and it's currently my favorite entry in the series. Its story is the most gripping of what I've played so far, with an absorbing cast, good pacing, and memorable scenes. It continues the series' perfect blend of weighty, life-or-death character drama and complete utter Japanese nonsense, somehow managing to juggle both without either really ever feeling out of place. The open world it creates is small, but packed with engaging content, and the fighting system, while more simplified than other entries, does carry its weight through the excessive number of brawls protagonist Kiryu gets into. I am aware that Yakuza 6 also came out in the West this year, but I'm holding off on playing that because I want to go through the rest of the games in order, which I totally plan to do. For now, Kiwami 2 is the high bar for the series, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Whoa.
God of War. Man, what to even say about it? It's a game that when you finish, you just know it's going to be at the top of your list. I kept trying to think of reasons for it not to be, but every time someone would ask, what do you think your game of the year will be? What immediately jumped to the forefront of my mind was God of War, and this is coming from a guy with no attachment to the older titles. It's a technical marvel in every regard. The relationship between Kratos and Boy is fleshed out and believable, the land of Norse gods is fascinating to explore, the combat is brutally satisfying, there's a sizable chunk of extra content to dive into after the 30-hour narrative is finished, and it manages to do all of this without compromising its integrity by including loot boxes or other crappy business practices. Imagine that! In my review of the game, I described God of War as an epic masterwork, and I 100% stand by that assessment. It's a title you absolutely need to play if you have a PlayStation 4, and is without question my personal favorite game of 2018. So typically, when I get in front of the camera like this at the end of a video, with my big red chapped lips, don't think I don't read the comments, because I do, I usually have some kind of outline for what I'm going to say, and some big, dumb, horrible joke prepared, but in this case, I'm just going to kind of talk off the cuff for a minute, because 2018 was such a weird year for me here on YouTube, because I have had such exponential growth in the last 6 months, going from around 3,000 subscribers to about 25,000 at the time that this uploads. And that's insane, and I don't know how it happened. I mean, the Splinter Cell video, was the catalyst that somehow also did well, even though I never could have predicted that. And since then, there's just been kind of this snowball effect, and the momentum has been steady, increasing once I was able to come back and make videos. And that's what's remarkable about this whole thing, is that somehow, despite being unable to produce content for like 3 months when the fire happened, and I swear it's the last time I'll mention it, I know I've mentioned it like in every video since I got back, but I would have expected that when I'm not around to take advantage of this new influx of attention, that all momentum would just die. It would go up in smoke, I guess. And somehow it didn't. Somehow it's stayed consistent, and it's remarkable, and it's exciting, but it's scary. It kind of strokes my ego a bit, but it's also very humbling that the people are taking time out of their day to watch my dumbass talk about video games on the internet, because there are so many other people doing this, and they're doing it better than me, and they're more entertaining, and they're more talented. So why you people are choosing to watch me of all the creators is baffling to me, but hopefully I'm somehow worth watching in your eyes, and I continue to be in the new year into 2019. So like I said at the top of the video, please, in the comments down below, share what your favorite game or games of the year were. Make a list if you'd like. But what I'd kind of like to see is, on top of that, in the comments below, let me know how you stumbled across my channel, whether it was something suggested to you in the sidebar, or a friend recommended it, or you were searching for some specific game and I just happened to cover it. I'm very curious to see why people are coming to check out my stuff. And sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, to all of you out there watching this video right now, whether this is the first video of mine that you've watched, or you've been with me for the last couple months during the influx of new subscribers and viewers, or you're one of the rare few that have been with me since the very beginning, seriously, thank you for taking the time to check out my stuff and to spend the precious free time you have watching me instead of doing something productive. And yeah, hopefully I can keep providing entertainment for you. So before I ramble on too long, thanks again, and I hope everyone has a happy and safe new year. See you in 2019.